Hey friends, welcome back. In this video, we're just going to go over the Chapter 10 lecture video worksheet. So hopefully you have tried to define these terms and answer these questions, and you're just here for a little discussion. So without any further ado, let's have a look at these key terms here. Okay, so bonds are they're financial securities that represent a promise to repay a fixed amount of funds at a date or dates specified in the future. The business cycle are these alternating periods of economic expansion and economic recession that we are unfortunately having to deal with. Capital, it refers to basically manufactured goods that are used to produce other goods and services, like tools, right? Human capital is basically the accumulation of work experience and education that helps workers be more productive. Crowding out refers to the decrease in private expenditures caused by increases in government expenditures and typically how they affect the interest rate. Financial intermediaries are firms that get money from savers and lend that money to borrowers, like banks and mutual funds and insurance companies, and stuff like that. Financial markets are markets where financial securities are sold. Financial securities are basically documents that specify the terms under which funds flow from savers to borrowers. Two main financial securities are bonds, which I already talked about, and shares of stock or stocks. Shares of stock represent partial ownership in a firm. Very different from a bond that's just basically a fancy IOU. Those are the two main types of financial securities, and then there are derivatives of those as well, but we don't need to worry about those. The financial system is basically the system of financial intermediaries and financial markets that essentially create the flow of funds from savers who have excess funds to the borrowers who are willing to borrow those funds and pay interest on them. Labor productivity refers to the amount of output that could be produced in an hour by a team of people or could be produced by one worker. So labor productivity just essentially counts up how much stuff could be produced by a person in a given period of time or by a team of people in an hour, for example. Long-run economic growth is the process by which increasing productivity raises the average standard of living in a society. The market for loanable funds, pretty much just the interaction of the borrowers and the lenders that determines the interest rate and how much money is flowing from borrowers to lenders. Real GDP per capita. This is real GDP divided by the population. This is a measure of output per person, which is of course the same thing as income per person. It's our best measure of long-run economic growth. That's answer number one. Now, stocks, as I mentioned, are financial securities that give the owner rights to the profits of a firm. They represent partial ownership of a firm. All right, so those are the key terms. Let's have a look here at number one. So number one says, what's the best way to measure long-run economic growth? That's real GDP per capita. Number two says, how is economic prosperity related to life expectancy and leisure time? The more prosperous, the longer life expectancy and the more leisure time we see. The more poor a country is, the less leisure time and the shorter life expectancy people have. Number three says, economy grows at 10% per year. Roughly how long will it take the economy to double in size? Using the rule of 70, I will divide 70 by the growth rate of 10% to tell you that it will take the economy 7 years to double. Number four says, an economy has a GDP of 8 billion one year and 9 billion the next. At what rate did the economy grow? 12.5%. I can just apply the growth rate formula where I put in the change, We went in the numerator over the original value, and the denominator multiplied by 100. Going from 8 to 9, the change is 1 billion, right? I've got 9 minus 8. That's my 1 billion change over the starting value of 8, and then multiply that by 100. If you multiply it out, you should get about 12.5%. All right. So number 5 says, what determines the long run, the rate of long run economic growth? That would be labor productivity. Number 6 says, what determines labor productivity? Well, basically capital, as in physical capital, machines, tools, and that kind of thing. And also human capital, the accumulation of work experience and education that helps workers be more productive. Also technology, and strong property rights. Very important. Okay, number 7 here says, what types of things are bought and sold in financial markets? Well, financial securities, like stocks and bonds, for example. Number 8 says, what is the difference between stocks and bonds? Stocks represent partial ownership in a firm and entitle the stockholder or the shareholder to the profits of the firm. Bonds, on the other hand, represent just a promise to repay funds later, a fixed amount of funds at fixed dates in the future. So they're just basically really formal IOUs. Number 9 here says, in the overall view of our economy, what's the financial system do? It matches the savers who have excess funds with the borrowers who want to borrow those funds and sets the price. That's good. So what is the relationship between saving and investment in the macroeconomy? They're equal to each other. Number 11 says, how does increased government borrowing affect the interest rate? It increases it, and that's what leads to crowding out. Number 12 says, what are the 2 phases of the business cycle? Recession and expansion. Note that peak and trough are just moments in time. Those are not actual business cycle phases. Those would be recessions and expansions. Okay. Number 13 here says, how are unemployment and inflation rates affected by business cycle? Well, in an expansion, we're producing more stuff. And so we need more people, and the unemployment rate consequently falls. During expansions, the inflation rate is typically relatively higher than during, a recession. During a recession, the inflation rate is lower, although usually still positive, indicating the price level still rises, just by not as much. And during a recession, we're producing less stuff, and so we need fewer people. Consequently, the unemployment rate rises during a recession. Okay. Number 14, the Great Moderation is this idea or this observation that since about 1950, the business cycle has become way more stable. The average length of recession has fallen, and the average length of expansion has risen, and so the economy is a lot more moderate. We have much smoother growth than we did before, and we benefit from that. Number 15 here says, what are the main explanations for why the business cycle is less extreme than in past? In other words, why is it more moderate? Probably the most important explanation is that as an economy, we have shifted from producing a lot of manufactured goods into being more service-based economy. And the manufactured goods that we do produce, still a lot of them are the non-durables. And those are better to produce during a recession because basically a recession is always caused by a decrease in total spending. And during a recession, a lot of times consumers stop spending as much, which just makes it worse. But they don't stop spending on everything. The main thing they stop spending on are those durable goods. So having an economy that's based more on services and non-durable good manufacturing will help us minimize the duration of a recession because people still spend on those types of things. All right. So why else? Well, we have some active government policies that help us be more productive, that help stabilize the economy. The government actually does something when we fall into a recession. Back in the day, we used to just take our lumps. Also, we have established government programs that allow unemployed people to keep spending, and again, spending is the whole key to getting to the economy. Really, we fall into a recession because total spending falls. will get out of a recession by stimulating more spending. So having unemployment insurance and other government programs that allow unemployed people to keep spending basically keeps the money flowing in our economy and reduces the duration of recessions. And finally, I would also add that we have increased the stability of the financial system by intervening when things get rough there. So those are the main explanations, friends. I hope this video was helpful and that you'll email me if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. A Kearns production. All rights reserved.